To the Esmeric Art Studio. Today's project is going to be a trash project. Some time ago I made these little, or repurposed these little buckets for little trash cans when I'm teaching workshops, but even these ones is taking up quite a bit of space on the table. So the other day when I popped into a Dollarama, I found these little utensil ones and I was thinking, oh, this will be perfect to put on the tables when I'm doing or teaching the workshops. So we're basically going to change this or turn this into this. And the only reason why I haven't stuck this down yet is the paint is taking a while to dry, so I would like to finish the the project in one go. And yeah, so let's get started. We're going to need our container that we are going to repurpose. We will be needing some sanding paper, and the reason for the sanding paper is this one specifically is smooth, so you need something to roughen it up with. I'm using a 150, but I don't think the grit is that important, just as long as what you can roughen it up for the paint to adhere to it. Then we're going to need the paint. I'm going to use plain Deco Art, the Crafters acrylic, and a paintbrush to paint that with. You can also use spray paint. When you do use spray paint, just remember to put on a mask when you do spray and to spray outside or on a place that is safe. But yeah, spray paint will work perfectly. I've actually, when I did these ones, I did use spray paint for them. We're going to need the letters to spell the word trash. And on that note, so when I did this, the first one, when I bend it around to have a look, how it's going to look, I've noticed that the wooden one keeps on lifting up right on the corners, and no matter how you move it, it is sort of always these two areas that is lifting up. So just a word of caution when you do use the wooden letters, that is fit, but there's no reason why you can't use them. So once this is down, you're going to need a piece of cardstock or any scrap piece of cardboard that you are going to adhere your letters with. You're going to use a glue stick just to adhere your letters. Then we are going to need metal tape to cover this all. Next, what we're going to do is, just as we are working with the metal tape, we're going to use our paper stump, our plastic burnishing stylus tool, as well as our refiner, just to refine around the letters that we're going to use. Tweezer is optional, just for placement of your letters, but you can do it by hand as well. I don't even know if I'm going to use it. I've used a texture wheel just to make a sort of frame around, but you can use anything for that. You don't necessarily have to use a texture wheel. Then we're going to use our permanent black marker, water-based permanent black marker for the blackening. And once everything is done, we're going to add Suquan tape to the back of our metal tape word, just so that we can adhere it to our container. First, we're going to start with our container, and we are just going to start sanding it. And you don't really have to sand it everything off. It is just to, I'm making a noise. It is just, as I said, to roughen it up so that your paint can adhere. And don't forget to do the base too, unless you don't want to paint the base, but I think it's good to paint the base. Don't forget to go into these little grooves as well. Roughen it up on top, and most of all, don't forget to do the inside, the bottom, as well as the sides. So again, if you don't want to do the sides or the inside, you don't need to. You can just leave it the color as is. So I'm going to go off camera and I'm just quickly going to sand this up. Next step is painting, and 2 thin layers of paint is much better than what you're going to try and do just one thick layer. So I'm just going to pour some paint in here. You can decant it onto a palette or anything like that, but I'm just going to throw it in and then start moving it up. So what I did with the first one that I've painted as well, I didn't sand it down, as you can see on the inside. So what I did, I don't know if you can pick it up, but what I did was I've just started painting it like this to give it this sort of a distressed look, and for me it worked perfectly fine. If you want to do a solid cover and then sand it down again afterwards for the distress look, that's perfect fine as well. Or you can just paint it solid and leave it solid. It doesn't really matter. It's like I always say, it's personal preference, because luckily not everybody in the world likes exactly the same things. So that is what's making life so interesting. I'm going to continue on and quickly paint the inside of the container. When it comes to painting the outside, I'm done the inside. I've just put it down onto a piece of paper towel. I've painted the base, and so next what I'm going to do is I'm just going to decant some of the paint on the base again and work from the bottom up and make sure that I get in the grooves. If you have a different way of painting that's easier, perfect, that's the way that you're going to do it. And it doesn't really matter whether you paint up and down or in all around the container, as long as what you get a really good coverage. So I'm going to finish this and then we can move on to the next step while this is drying. I'm going to put this off to the side to dry, and then once the base is dry I will just turn it around and do the rim. I could have done the rim first and then do the base last. It really doesn't matter as long as what both gets done. So that off to the side, and we're going to start working on our with the metal tape and to place the trash here. And I'm just using ordinary glue stick, and I'm just putting some glue on there. I sometimes use Sukwang tape for this too, but when it comes to lettering, the problem with the Sukwang tape is if you do use that, you see the marks of the strips if you use strips. Other than that, you can use it, but then you sort of have to give it a solid coverage, and I find that's just a little bit of a waste for me of the Sukwang tape. So I'm just more or less spacing this out, and yeah, I think this looks good. And I'm just placing this down so that it can stay in place. And having the glue there really helps quite a bit. And of course you can use the lettering that you use. They can be all the same. They don't necessarily have to be a different font. This little ABC or 1, 2, 3 drawer, red or reddish pinkish kind of drawers that's behind me, what I do is every time when I cut off something from with my silhouette, I just throw it in there, and that is where it lives. So when I do something like this, I just go in there and I take out what I need. I'm going to add a little bit of glue over the R and the H, and I somewhere have another T as well. I just don't know where it is at the moment. So I just put this on. And the only reason I'm layering it, because this is a very thin cardstock that I've used to cut this lettering out, and just to give it a little bit more height. Just see if I can find my other A or my other T. No, I can't find it now, so I'm just going to leave it like this. Adding our metal tape, and so I'm just going to go slightly bigger than what this is, the cardstock is, just so that I can wrap it around. So for the other one that I did, I've actually used pewter and I did patina on this. So, but for this one, I thought it's a quick and easy one, you know, to do it with the metal tape. So, like with everything else, I'm just going to remove our tape and I'm going to place it over the wording and just press down. Go in with my finger first. And then from there, I'm just going to fold it over. Do the same on the opposite side. And see, this is where this small little one would have come in handy now. I could have just popped it in there if it was ready and finished. And next it is just pushing it down, working the metal tape into the lettering that we have just added here. And make sure that you pay attention to the edges as well, so that when we add the next strip and it overlap, so that it looks neat and tidy, or you don't have any loose ends there. Once I'm done with the paper stump, I'm going to use my stylus or burnishing, this little plastic one, and I'm just going to push the tape right up until the edge to give it that neat and tidy look. And then once this is completed, I'm going to come in with the metal stylus and I'm going to redo the same again. And I will be doing the same for all the letters. So first it's going to be the purple stylus or burnishing tool. Once that is done, moving on with the metal stylus. And with the metal stylus, it doesn't really matter if you use, you know, the little end like this, the bended end, or the bobble. It all depends what is more comfortable. What I do suggest is, if you do use this one, I really like moving my, whether it's the pewter or metal tape or whichever metal I'm working with, I would rather move my metal or the tape than what I would try and work at weird angles. So I'm quickly going to finish this up. Bit of a slip there with the A, so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in with this burnishing tool and I'm going to smooth it out. And that's all done. On to the next step. Again, I'm just measuring more or less the tape, and I go a little bit wider than what the cardstock is, and this one I'm just going to cut in half, and I'm going to use the side, or not the side that I have cut. I'm going to use the end pieces. And I'm going to let that overlap just because I can't cut straight. I'm going to push this down. And I'm going to do exactly the same with the bottom one. You can always, if you want to add more detail, you can always, oh no, I don't know which, oh, there you go. You can always cut your metal tape into different shapes and add different shapes over here as well. You don't necessarily just have to go into the straight lines, but I just figure, you know, it's a quick and easy project. And I'm cutting it at straight and at an angle. So I cut straight. And this is just to make it easier and give it a more neat fold over. So do the same at all four corners. So for this, the shorter ones, I'm just going to fold them over. For the longer ones, I will do exactly the same as what I work with metal. I will put it down, bring it over, and just push it down. Do it from the center and work my way to the outsides. Again, push it down, fold it over. Just let it go down, work from the inside to the outside. And now it's just going to be repeating what we've done in the beginning. We are going to flatten this out with our paper stump, and then once that is done, we are going to use our purple stylus or any stylus and just make sure where the two have overlapped that it is a neat and tidy joint that is there. And okay, and I think it's time to move on to the frame. Before we move on to the frame, I've turned this around because the outside is, I would say, about 99% dry, but the inside is still very wet just because it was standing upside down. So while I have this here, I'm quickly going to just do the rim. And while it is standing here, I'm just quickly going to do the outside again. So what I'm doing now is, the first time around I've painted around, so the second time around I'm going to go up and down when I do the painting. You can also still again go in a circle, whichever is working best for you. It doesn't really matter. It's all about, like I said, personal preference. It's just when you have situations like that, that it does cover up better if you go in a different direction. So going to finish this quickly and then we will move on to the tape to finish our name. I've painted the second layer on the outside. I'm not going to do a second layer on the inside, and neither am I going to do the base, because we're not really going to see that. And when you look on the inside, it sort of looked distressed on the inside, so that's why I'm not going to cover and then go back in sanding. But as for the outside, I will just give it a light sand. Most probably it will be dry before the video is done. If not, then I will just continue on with the other container that's already done. I'm going to start with a frame, and I'm just going to roll, and I'm using a wavy wheel. You can use a stylus and do a design on here, you know, whatever is going to work best for you, or you think you would like your frame to be. You can use a ruler and a straight line. Doesn't really matter. Look how skew is this one. Wow, that's a little bit way too skew. And I'm going to try and go straight here. Well, obviously I can't really go straight. So I'm going to do my straight. Okay. And on the four corners, actually, you know what, this one is really skew. I think, no, I'm just going to leave it as is. On the corners, I'm going to do a circle with a little dot on the inside. And then as for around the wood trash, I'm going to go in with my, well, I just call it my signature background. I don't really know what it is, but it's 5 designs that I do, and I repeat them a couple of times, and then I just fill in all the gaps in between these designs. So this is basically how it looks like in the end. I'm quickly going to continue on, and I'm going to fill in the whole background except for the areas on the outside of the frame that I've made. So this is the first design. The second one that I usually do is a little flower, and it has 5 petals. There's a leaf, so I do a leaf. I have this little, it's just 3 little, I don't know, scallops, olives, oh, not olives, loops, and I have a little circle, so it's sort of circles that's joined together on the one side, and then a circle surrounding it. So again, I'm going to fill up, or just at random spots put these down quickly. I've done those designs, all I do is I start from one end and I just fill in all the open areas that is there with some shapes, and there's no rhyme or reason. I just follow how it is going, and sometimes I do, it all depends on the project. If it's a bigger project, I would do, you know, big areas like that I would do in one shape, but because this is a smaller design, I will definitely do smaller shapes. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in the whole background with these shapes. Everything is covered in the background, and next step is I'm still going to use my stylus, and I'm just going to do little lines to create a frame. Well, we've already done the frame with the wheel, but just to add some extra details there as well. Trash is done, and next step is going to be blackening, and I'll have to work like this because I can't put gloves on today. So with blackening, again, it is using our water-based permanent marker, and we kind of cover the whole area, or you can work in sections. And then once that is done, we're just going to come in with a paper towel or a soft cloth, and we're going to wipe it all in the same direction. You can take as little or as much of the blackening or the water-based permanent marker off like you prefer, but sometimes I find that I'm working too slow, and then I can't get enough off. So what I would do then is I would just lightly spritz my piece of paper towel with the alcohol ink, not alcohol ink, just the alcohol, and I would come in and I would just go over. So it would remove quite a bit, but again, when you do this, you have to work carefully, otherwise you can remove everything. Now it almost looks like, if you can see there, it looks like it's almost making a bigger mess first. But if you just continue on, and this is a little bit difficult when you do this to work just in one direction. And as I said, I don't use it very often, but sometimes I just feel that, oops, no, there is too much blackening on here for me. Usually I like quite a bit of blackening, but I think it's just because the garbage can is black. I would like to have a little bit more of the silver showing, and I'm really taking some off on the lettering so that can stand out. And you can also, at this point, if you want to, you can add some colors to your letters. You don't necessarily have to keep it just as shiny. You can put some color in there as well. You can use a Sharpie, or alcohol inks will work, because alcohol inks works very well with the metal tape as well. I think this looks okay for me now. And just go in with another spritz. You can also use the alcohol swab for this, but I find just with the alcohol swab you have a good chance of removing everything. And the same as when you just spritz this on, you can absolutely remove all the blackening. But then again, you can just start from scratch again. Okay, and I think for now my trash is done. Let me just see. Yep, looks good. Well, I have this and the sequin tape here. I think what I'm going to do is quickly going to add the sequin tape. Then I know this is all ready and done for when I want to adhere it. You can also use glue to adhere it to this, but because it's on a rounding, I think I'm going to feel more comfortable using the sequin tape than the glue. If this was for something else, I most probably would have sprayed it at this point with a clear lacquer spray, but because I'm going to adhere it to the our little container, and then once everything is done, even although it is on here, I'm going to spray the whole project. So I'm going to spray the container and this at the same time. And next step is sanding. So this all depends how much of the the black paint you would like to sand off, or how much of a distressed look you would like to have. If you don't want to have any, you can still stick with the solid color. It all depends, how you would like your container to look like. I'm just gonna go for once over. It's not very even, it's making more marks than anything else, but that's fine. It's like I can't get a proper grip on the sanding paper. Maybe if I use a bigger piece, it will work better. Oh yeah, way much better. So lesson learned, try and use a bigger piece of sanding paper when you do sand. That bigger piece definitely works better, because you just have more control over it. Going to wipe this down to see how it looks like, and I'm using a baby wipe for this. Yep, I think this looks good. Something I want to point out is I have used two different acrylic paints on this. This was a more shinier one, and this is a more matte one. I just realized when you do look at distress, it's usually when there is raised areas, and I didn't really concentrate on the raised areas, so I'll just go around and do that. And maybe just a little bit here at the bottom too. So just always think about, when you see things like that, where the distress is going to be, or in a natural situation, or not a natural situation, in natural circumstances, that's what I would say. Where is the distressing going to be? And focus on those areas. Like I said, in this case, definitely the raised areas usually have more distress than the rest of the container or item. And then it's merely just look to see, where you would like to have your to place your trash. I think I would like to have this area for my front, and I don't know if it's going, it looks like it's staying. So yeah, and next is we're just going to adhere this and go in more or less straight. Looks the same. I'm just going to push it down and make sure that it adheres very well. And I would definitely use, just be careful that when you do use this, that you do not get rid of all your texture and designs that you have put on here. And there you go, our little trash can is done. We're done with our trash. So these are the two. The one is a matte black and the other one is more shiny black. So for the shiny black, what I've used the Liquitex Basics, the Mars Black, so it definitely have a little bit of a shine to it. And then for the matte one, I have used the Decor Art Crafters acrylic, and that's the one that I picked up from the Dollarama as well. So it really doesn't matter which paint you are using. You know, different kinds is going to give you different looks. So I don't know, which one do you prefer, the shiny one or the more dull one, or the matte one, I should say? I don't know. I'm really torn, because when I look at the one with the shiny one, then I think, yeah, this is the one I like. And then I look at the matte one and I think, yeah, this is the one I like. But what I'm going to do is, when I'm going to seal them, I will seal this one, the shiny paint one, with a gloss sealer. And when it comes to sealing this one, I'm going to use a matte sealer. I don't use a matte sealer very often, but I think for this one always have like a chalky board kind of feel to it, and that's why I'm going to use a matte sealer on this one. So I hope you've enjoyed this project, and that you are going to make a small little trash can for your studio or your workplace, wherever that is. So thank you so much for spending time with me in the studio today, and always remember, the world of reality has its limits. The world of imagination is boundless.